Hello, Poggers, and welcome to another episode of the PogState. I'm Atlas. I am joined, as usual, by Wolf, Chronicler, and Valdez, and we've got a special episode for you this evening. We're not going to go into why it's special just yet, because first, we have to talk about playoffs and the teams that are in the closest to the running for like guaranteed top four, and they're looking real good. It's Gen G, it's T1, it's DK, and it's Humble Life Esports. Not in that order, obviously. So only two of those have been locked in thus far. But boys, it's looking like we're at least a 4-team region, right? It's feeling good.
Except when Hanwha and D Plus do a little trolling.
but
Just a little bit.
But like Hanwha lost to KT, and KT are a really great team that totally didn't just lose to Bro 2-0, right?
Well, I don't know why would you even discuss KT, as Atlas has said many a time. It's just a 50. It doesn't matter who they face. Realistically, Genji's probably only gonna fall to KT if they fall to anyone, and it will not make sense. It's like when they lost to Brion last year in summer, and it'll be hilarious because I know that we joked a lot about it, but I truly, from the bottom of my heart, felt like we were just doing a bit when talking about Brion beating KT. And then they did. I think that Hanwha and DK, although they definitely are still a little bit shaky at times, and even though Hanwha lost to DK, I don't think that the variance in play level is quite as severe as like when we get to post the fourth team. And I think Humble Life, they also drafted Shyvana twice. And let's be honest, they probably would have won if they didn't do that.
But Peanut said it was really OP.
Yeah, he did.
And then other players said it the opposite.
Aiming said it was bad.
I mean,
actually,
it looks like aiming is a genius based on that take. That's what I'm saying. Gen G, I want to start by talking about them. I think it's going to be a pretty quick conversation. They look pretty good. Thoughts?
I mean, they might actually get to plus 35. Like, they might actually win every game for the rest of the season. I think their toughest opponent, I mean, we joke about KT, but they have Hanwha at the end of the season.
Yep.
The very last match of LCK. So that's a really big one, I think, that I'll be looking forward to. But right now, even with Hanwha's, if you take away like their kind of flop in the Shyvana and all that stuff, they still look like they're a tier below. Like, I feel like no one is really on the same tier as Gen G. We can't really like say that Gen G is similarly paced to any of these teams. Like, T1 almost took a game off of them. A lot of teams have almost taken games off of them, except D+, who actually did. And yeah, it just feels like it's Gen G's not even season, not even year. It's just we're living in the era of Gen G right now.
Yeah, it's Gen G's world. We just living in it.
Yeah,
It's the cringe all first team, all pro. Like, I know we're gonna do a whole separate episode about that, but I'm just gonna.
yeah.
I'm gonna say, like,
get it out of the way.
Like, get it out of the way. It's actually gonna happen because this time it's valid. Like in spring, it definitely wasn't, and I think we all stood by our opinions back then. But I'm like,
Barrel
Pace,
third, baby.
Pace is that was my favorite little scandal of spring. But right now, like, Pace is probably gonna end up getting player of the summer, right? Just in terms of POC points, could still get overtaken. Still have 2 weeks, but he is free foul.
1,000 is normally enough to get you at least tied.
Yes,
Is what we've seen.
and that's in it. That's in Gen G with all the other. It's they're too far ahead. It's just boring to talk about. They're just too good.
I mean,
like,
if you think about it, like
Yeah.
10 out of 27, that's actually quite a high number of POGs. Like, he's gotten over a third of them from
Yeah.
Gen G.
Yeah. I mean, we are a 4-team region just in the fact that we have to send 4 teams to Worlds. But actually, we're a 1-team region just because all the teams are really good, but Gen G is so much better than every other team that we're simultaneously a 1-team region and also a 4-team region because we do have 4 good teams that will do well at Worlds eventually, depending on who goes, I guess, and who is ready to perform on an international stage. Looking at you, Humble Life Esports. But I think Gen G is probably the best team in the world right now by far. I don't think that's crazy to say. So, yeah, it's really cool to see how far they can go and, how dominant they will be. I think they will get the Golden Road, and that'll happen. And we're all going to be watching it. Although it always feels like we have like the favorite team going into Worlds and then they always don't win. So that's also an interesting conversation. Is anyone really going to overtake Gen G by the time it comes to Worlds? Because I'm already assuming, that
Yeah, 'cause
Gen
it
G
was
will
like
win.
Last time
at
was
this
dumb
point.
one.
It was JDG in
Last year.
2023. That was the last like big sort of like monumental rise of a team, like super team. The other huge one outside of Dom1, I guess, but they came off a victory in 2020, so I think that like
No,
they
I mean
sort of-
2020 dumb one.
Oh right, yeah. I mean that team
Like the
was
last time that the
ridiculous.
team actually won, that
When they
was
did
the
it.
favorite.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
2020. Since then, it's been
Yeah, because
not the favorite that
2021
wins.
EDG won over Dom1, who we thought was going to win. 2022, I mean, what the heck even happened that year? 2023 was just JDG being denied by T1. The last time I like saw a team that was so incredibly like so much better than their opposition domestically really fail was probably like Kingzone 2017.
Or T1 going into MSI after the
Yeah,
perfect season.
2022. Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah.
FPX like another one of those teams that people were talking about, and then they kind of flopped?
Yeah,
that one
but
year.
That's
Top
FPX has
esports as well.
A lot of there's a lot of overlapping players in that one.
I think
Where I
the-
feel like at this point they kind of got a reputation for it.
I think the difference between that T1 roster and that season and Gen G now is not only just like their dominance being extended over the entire year, but just in that T1 was really good and had a really good read on the meta that persisted throughout an entire season. And while we haven't seen big changes really this season just yet, it's still been mostly double AD carry with AP junglers. I do feel like Gen G is one of those teams that can kind of play anything. Like I don't think we're worried about the Worlds patch for them. I don't think we're worried about playoffs patch for them because it's Chovy, it's Canyon, it's Keen. And the bottom lane, I mean, it hasn't really been like a duo known for like big or small champion pools. Lens has had some like eclectic picks, like the Shen that was discussed today. But I think that, the bottom lane is, I feel like, often the lane that's least impacted by patches, generally speaking. Like, even if Ezreal gets nerfed, it's not like Paze is going to be like, oh, I guess I play more Zeri now. I don't know if we're going to win.
Yeah, there's just so many
Yeah.
picks in the bot lane. that-
Oh no, I have to play
Yeah.
Aphelios. It's hyper. It doesn't matter. Like I
Yeah.
think they're really meta resilient.
We've had a lot of games this season with all the AD carry picks that have like 6 or 7 AD carries banned sometimes because they don't get picked in the first stage, and then
And then we're
So-
still in a game that has like Kai'Sa versus
Yeah.
Xayah or something like
Or
that. And you're like,
Jhin,
oh
you know.
yeah,
there are actually so many
Or
of them are
Ziggs,
good.
right?
It's actually
Yeah.
quite fun.
there's
Yeah.
so many things you
Besides
can
the
pick.
fact that they're busted.
Zaya is not good.
Sure.
no, she's not good.
Yeah,
Just wanted to
can't
make
believe
that
you
No,
would
no,
say
no.
that.
Hey, you're good. You're good.
What's
She
the
is
stat now,
fit.
Wolf? Is it 10 and 30? Right, because it lost as well. Or no, maybe it was 10 and 29 after
10
that
and
game?
29, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this year.
Gen G are exceptional, and I think that we might end up, depending on how they do at Worlds, we might end up having the G2 discussion, which is like if you're so far ahead of the rest of your region, like
How do you
that,
improve?
how do you keep improving? How do you keep developing? How do you not get?
You need to hope that they're playing League of Legends in alien planets, and so they can go over there to improve further.
Good odds.
Because I think what we're talking about is them just they're hitting the ceiling above the world.
Yeah.
At
Well,
this
I know,
point.
but that's what, depending if they end up bombing out in semis again, like anything but a finals at this point for this roster would.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're also talking as if they've already won summer, which I imagine is how we all feel, but you never know.
The only question is who's going to face them in the finals, which, as we all know, is not a question. It's T1. Yeah.
That's also a really good segue into that conversation about what the other three in our top four are sort of doing at the moment. Because Humble Life Esports, they have locked playoffs. They're the only other team to have done so thus far. D Plus and T1 are pretty close to it as well. T1 faltering a little bit, but it was against Gen G, so we give them a pass for that. Let's talk about Humble Life Esports, though, because losing to KT, especially off the back of KT's recent demolition at the hands of Bro,
It doesn't stop
Yeah.
being funny.
it's very KT. That is such a week, right? You lose to, you win against the second place team in the LCK, and then you lose to the last place team.
We're
It's
the second team to lose to the last place team. It's
Yeah.
not just the last place
Well-
team. It's the last place team that has only won once against
Who
Guangdong.
at that point were 1-11 and -19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2-0'd.
And now KT are -1, so they're allowed to start winning again.
But we're not talking about KT, right, guys?
Yeah, no, we're not
let's
talking
talk
KT.
about Homolife Esports.
Yeah. So
I'm a little bit nervous to talk about KT. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. That would be very weird. That'd be some foreshadowing potentially. But let's talk about Hamwa. Is it just the Shyvana phase and then we're back on track and it's fine?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think every team is just happy gaming at this point. You know, like even as casters for us, like we get into like the second round of summer and it's like a lot of work and we're sometimes getting
It's like
like
week
bogged
6,
down.
7.
Yeah.
You know, or like falling asleep and stuff. I think
That's
all-
mostly just Degon, but yeah.
Yeah, mostly just Egon, occasionally me. I think that all the teams have that as well, where they're just like, it's like, I don't know, do I really need to show up and play up against Bro or one of our other
KT discovered they
DRX,
didn't
you
have
know.
to show up against Bro. Like
Well,
at all. They just didn't.
They learned
Stop
that.
making it about KT.
They learned that if they don't, then they will get crushed. I think that KT can always play to their opponents, and Homolife Esports kind of got caught off guard by that series. And I think that they have a really weird read on the meta, which is kind of weird at the moment with some of the picks coming in. I'm not too worried about Homolife. I think they've proven that individually and as a team they are strong. And they're really the only other choice in my mind that might face Genji in the finals if it's not T1.
I think Hanwha
so-
is a team I'm worried about with patch changes, though. Viper has had some pretty rough games off the Ezreal. I'm not to say that he's like playing very poorly, but uncharacteristically weak, let's say. And Zeka, we know, is probably, of our top mid laners, the most meta dependent, and he's good at AD mids, whether that's a ranged AD or if it's Yone. But if he ends up having to play mages or having to play Azir, it will beat most of the teams in the LCK. But will he beat the best teams in the LCK? Will he beat Showmaker? You know, if he's playing Azir into Showmaker's wild and wacky picks that he's prepared for these types of best of fives and playoffs, I don't know if Hanwha will actually be the stronger team when we get to that point over D+, just simply because I think the patch could change things.
I think Hanwha are perfectly viable at being the second best team in the LCK until the lower bracket finals.
Yeah, that's what happened last time. I kind of remember that last time. That seemed pretty
Sure.
It was T1 Hanwha, and then,
I think they're good, but I don't think they got it.
I feel like we're running an algorithm and it's now just doing the same thing every season.
Yeah, and guess what? I wasn't gonna believe in this, but now after KT got 2-0 by Bria, I'm like, yep, no, we're in the simulation. I said it to Max. We're back in the simulation. It's like the rules apply.
It's
We
just
always
Genji
were.
T1.
I mean,
Yeah.
the world is a simulation, so
Yeah.
But
I mean,
is it a 3-0 Genji win, or is it a 5-gamer again? We don't know.
I think it's a
3-0.
4-gamer. I think it's a 3-1. I think it's an Andy. I think
Yeah.
it's,
That would
that's
just
not
be
it.
the way to end the season with
Yeah.
like a bit of a whimper, like one of those.
Yeah.
Got like one game where like, and then
It's like T1 wins game one, and then you like have a little bit of hope, like it
was
could
a
be an interesting
3-0.
final.
Oh,
and
that
then
was crazy. Yeah.
Yep. That's I think that's how it's gonna go. It's kind of like, you know, my YouTube algorithm. I used to have to like look for the dog video every morning, but now it's like first.
It knows.
And I get to watch that game of Battlegrounds, even though I haven't played Battlegrounds for over a year. I still watch it every time I wake up, and it knows that it has to be there in the very top of the feed. And it's like
that's all you need.
Genji T1 are doing exactly the same thing. Bro randomly beating a team they shouldn't beat in the second round robin of summer. Every time will always happen. KT dropping the ball in horrendous fashion, nailing it. Like everything.
Kwangdong Freaks midseason collapse.
Yeah.
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 We had
Although
it.
they're coming back, which is weird.
It's a
against
mid-season
Nongshim.
collapse.
Yeah.
against Nongshim,
It's a
they came back.
mid-season
They came
collapse.
back.
Yeah, and like the B&K or the
Against
Fear
Nongshim.
X, like we've discovered that we play aggressive pick compositions and then we win, like, and then everyone is like,
And then
wow,
right at
this
the
team
end-
is really good, and then they just disappoint, like at the very
right
end.
at the end, they're
Why
barely
would
going to
you
fall out of
remind me of
playoffs.
that?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man,
so-
it's all just coming full circle.
and then
Let's talk about D+.
yeah, because DK to me are the most interesting because to me they're basically the team equivalent of like the like 1400 LP. I only play. It doesn't matter which. It can be Riven. It can be. I don't care what it is.
I like
Sean.
that.
It can be Akshan, but they play one champion.
Shaco.
If the champion is banned, they suck. They're like, it's just, I'm going to dodge. But you can't dodge in pro play. Because I think that DK have exactly two modes that work. And it's put aiming on Ezreal, Kai'Sa, or sometimes Zeri. I think Zeri is definitely the worst
Yeah.
out of those three. Kai'Sa, Ezreal, both exceptional. But that's mode one. And then mode 2 is Showmaker, Lucid, go kill.
And
if-
aiming plays Ash.
Aiming. No, God. Still put him on Ezreal or Kai'Sa, ideally. Like that's just they can coincide as well.
But then he
I
can
think-
play Ash and it doesn't matter.
And like I want this team to be good. I love a lot of players on this team deeply, but I just think that the reality is, as soon as they kind of shimmy off that, they're the opposite of Hanwha Life, where I feel like their peak is the only team outside of T1 in finals, obviously, because that's what we're going to be getting, that can match Gen G because they're so weird. But also Hanwha Life in like 9 drafts out of 10, I'm like, they're better.
Yeah.
I think there's also just Kellen. He's just Kellen.
He's just Kellen, man. Everything's just described by it's just Kellen.
And I think that he has had some really good games this season on Renata. And then he was like, every draft is a Renata draft. And then it has had some games where it should not be Renata, and some lane matchups that should not be Renata, and some team comps that are not, Renata is not good into. And I think Kellen has been kind of one of the big sticking points for me on not worrying about D+ necessarily, but kind of being critical of some of the drafts they've done and some of the strategies they've tried to employ, especially when you're trying to play through aiming. If Kellen's having an off day, that can also backfire, as we've seen. So I think Kellen needs to really tighten it up, because I feel like Kingen has. Lucid's really come into his own. Like he's a real top jungler player in the LCK now. And Showmaker obviously is unlocked with his champion pool. So everything else feels like it kind of fits in. But Kellen, if he just has an off day, then even if everyone else is playing well, you're not going to beat the best of the best.
Yeah, I think there are some issues with what they think is good. Like, for example, like Showmaker's Jace was doing actually nothing in one of their matches more recently. Like, I think that, like you say, like the Renatas picked in really odd spots. I feel like their idea of what's good in the meta at the moment is just not it. So I think that actually that kind of puts their ceiling higher. Maybe because like if they do figure out like what's actually good, and it's a lot of champions that all these players are very good at, like they should be fine. Like even like Kellen's Alistair was like so much improved this year. Like I feel like Kellen put in a lot of effort to get better at what was meta, and then just went back to playing Renata in dumb spots. Like what are we doing?
Yeah. I just feel like DK, they have some really high highs, but it's almost like the whole team is a representation of Showmaker's brain. Like if you ever like
that's actually so
if you ever
accurate.
hear him talking like in comms and stuff, it's just like wild, and everybody's kind of following that that sentiment, that kind of feel, that vibe.
Is that vibe?
Yeah,
This? Okay.
pretty much. It's like, I'm just gonna pick
Eyes are wide,
Silas.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick Silas and beat my opponent over the head, and then it kind of fails, and it kind of looks weird. And I think because of this, they are a bit inconsistent. Not quite as inconsistent as KT, as we know. Keep bringing that up, but DK
KT
is
on the mind there, Valdez.
yeah. DK are definitely a team that has some really high highs. Like you think about how they were able to take the game off of Gen G in playoffs and bring it to 5 games. That happened, right? That was 5 games last playoffs. Spring, Lucid
Yeah, it
playing
was.
Lucid,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Like they can do it, and Lucid's even better now. And it feels like when it clicks, it's really amazing because they are a really strong team. But unfortunately, sometimes you just kind of ask yourself, like, why did they do that? They didn't have to do that. Like they could have just not listened to Showmaker, but instead they did. So
Showmaker dropping 15 waves because this time the play is going to work out.
yeah, like he's got the hands, but sometimes the brain is a little iffy, I'd say.
If only they.
I mean, sometimes I feel like he has the brain,
Yeah, I also
but
think
sometimes he thinks he has the brain, but he doesn't have the brain in that moment.
Yeah.
and often it's like risks that are taken as well. Like, and it's like you just don't need
Yeah.
to take
As a
the
team.
20-80 on this one.
But they,
you know,
but they will.
Just don't
Yeah.
listen to the crazy guy on your team. Just like relax.
don't listen
and
to the
play your game.
voices.
Yeah,
Showmaker,
exactly.
please.
Zephyr, I think, needs to just like bring it in. They start
tried,
telling
right?
Kellen
You know?
like, hey, like let's just play Leona here.
But I think that's also that would take away from what makes them good. The reason why they're the only team to have taken a game of Gen G, and the reason why they do it so consistently is because of that. So I think this is just
They
their.
sometimes just roll the hard 6.
Yeah, I think this is just their life. This is just who they are, and I don't think it's going to change anything.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we can talk about the other team that's going to be our runner-up in
Yeah.
summer.
It's going to be second.
Congratulations.
T1. Congratulations for that one. Sort of back on the horse, as it were. barring the matchup against Gen G, but we're going to bar that from anyone because that team is too good. And even we're putting the D+ win in game 1 down to a fluke, to be perfectly honest. It's not real. And so T1 looking like they're getting way better, being able to take down D+ and like strength to strength.
Yeah, they're their own little mid-season oopsie where we never really doubted them, but we're like maybe they end up in like 5th. I think that 4th, where they are now, is probably still the most likely, but they're also the team where if you can pick, you're not gonna pick them. We all learned from last year.
Sometimes you just have to wait for KT to make a mistake before you know where not to go.
I think that whereas the form of owner in particular has been consistent, I think Guma has been mostly consistent. I feel like
they're bookended by some worrisome modes in top and support.
Yeah, and I think that now, I think Keria and Zeus are slowly, I think they still have off games, but I think they are getting it together. And it's just there's too much tape of this team going for this exact thing for like 3 years now. Yep. And they always pull it together.
Especially when we get to best of fives, like they always make it happen. Like they're a very smart team, very well staffed. All the players are very intelligent. They know how to win, basically, even when people don't expect them to. So
especially when people don't
especially when they don't. So it's like even if they barely squeaked into playoffs, you still couldn't count them out. And that's why the Gen G T1 finals meme exists, is because they keep making finals because, well, even when they're not expected to, they keep winning.
Yeah, I feel like Faker has somewhat shored up his laning phase. Like his laning phase was really rough from the beginning of the season. Didn't look like he was very comfortable on the Corki or the Tristana. Looking a little bit better there, but they've also indexed into just picking him as ear a lot of the time, which is I think part of why they've kind of started to come back a little bit. They don't do it every time. They don't make it extremely predictable, which I do like. But he still had some individual mistakes on a lot of these picks, and he's also had I feel like drafts where he hasn't been able to make the impact he normally does in the side lane, for example, like on the Azir, where we always talk about this, where the Azir's way pushed up. And then it's like, oh, we can catch Faker, and then the whole team shows up faster, and then you actually get baited into trying to kill Faker, and you lose the team fight, which happened in the Ari game as well that he played. But I think he's, I think he's maybe one weak link when you're talking about him versus Zeka. We're talking about him against Chovy. That might be a problem for T1 potentially winning this season.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Really does seem like things are reaching ahead, perhaps, and hopefully, Faker is okay, and that's going to be fine, but he did look off in that series against Gen G, and do we think that will have an impact in the future of what T1's going to be able to do for the rest of the season? Because remember, the matches that they have coming up are not as difficult as what we saw in the first half of this round robin, right? So it should be like a way to ease back in to the regular season and then close it out towards playoffs, right?
Yeah. I mean, their final match is BNK. I think that's the toughest opponent they have left. They lost to them last time, but otherwise I think it's like Nongshim and Bro.
Yeah, it's not. They're not facing high level opposition. For me, so gameplay wise, I think it makes sense because specific that game 1, the series hinged on that, right? The Valkyrian was just a big mistake, which happens, but the series did hinge on that. Like the game 2, it's like the tension is built up, and if you're on the winning end of that, then you saw in game number 2 it was like we went from a game where in game 1 everything was decided by T1 until the team fight to game 2 where it was just like the most cookie cutter Gen G game we've ever seen, where they act like a 2K gold lead at 12, 13 minutes, and then you just never get to play the game. Obviously, this T1 roster is, for many reasons, also now adding to the fact that they're the reigning world champion. They also won EWC. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's always a pressure cooker. And I think that it's important to know that I don't think things usually get that heated, but we are looking at a team that has performed the most consistently, arguably, out of any roster in like the last, 2-3 years? Like JDG's up there, but they're more consistent than like Genji, for example, in terms of high-end finishes on tournaments, right? They've only had 2 third places, and outside of that, it's always been at least finals. So like, it's just, I don't know. It's tough.
They're under the highest pressure of any team in the world. And we're just talking about Gen G being like so far ahead of every other team. They're not ahead when it comes to the amount of pressure on them to win. T1 will always have that. They have the most fans out of any team on the planet for League of Legends, and it's not even
conversely,
close.
like most haters as well.
Yeah.
Like, that comes with the territory.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
the
just how
most
it works.
attention, and Faker is a household name in all of Korea. Is starting to be known, like even to people that aren't fans of League of Legends outside of like it's nuts, like the level of fame and reach this team has. So to understand, like to witness the amount of pressure that's being put on these players and Faker especially.
It just like really makes you feel like this guy has so much weight on his shoulders. He has so much pressure on him. And that comes with the territory of competing, obviously, but with all the things you mentioned, like how much pressure added he has versus other mid laners versus other teams and players, and how long he's been under this pressure for a decade. He's been on top of his game, most consistent player of all time, 4 world championships. He is just, straight up the player we've all come to expect to be perfect, right? We've almost called him a robot almost directly because of how good he is at the game, how good he is at interviews, and to see this moment of humanity out of him, I think it scares you. Like, it makes you feel like you're like, well, Faker is a real person. Like,
He knows more than anyone else that, especially in those really key moments where they can really do something great and really like cement T1's position as, okay, they are going to be in that finals against Genji, is by taking a game off of them and saying, okay, we are a competitor against them. So he knows, like, in that moment, they should have won that game. It's so frustrating for anyone, really, even if you play a simple game by yourself. But for him in that position, and knowing that all the haters are saying that he's failing, and then he has a couple of weak moments at the end of the game, he knows that he's potentially letting his fans down, the team. So it's just so much that builds up, and then this happens. So
For me, I think that there is so much, and this is not exclusive to T1, but it's obviously now a talking point. Any player that has reached this level of greatness, like, has a level of obsession for the game that is just gonna create, I think, responses like this.
yeah,
That's just the
thing,
reality.
like,
Otherwise,
he
you don't.
knows.
you're a perfectionist,
Yeah,
you just become a
100%.
perfectionist.
Yeah, it's not.
And don't like, we don't want to like get Chronicle wrong here. It's like, it's still not okay, right? Like,
Yeah.
getting to that level of stress where like you don't feel like you have an outlet, like that's always bad. But like, it is something that you do see, like at this level of pressure.
If any like athlete that is considered the greatest in their field, I imagine, sees Whiplash and they're like, that's a great aspirational movie. That's basically the gist of it, right? Where you're like, man, that's cool. It's like,
I wish I had that instructor. I would have gotten better so much faster.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think we can probably leave it at that. I think it's something that we did need to address, but I don't think it's going to affect T1 too much, especially given the fact that they then have, like, I feel like they've got the rush of the slide, and now they're like on the cruise part of the slide where they're heading towards the playoffs, where everything should be okay from now, and everything will probably be. So it's all right.
it'll be a T1 Genji finals. We all know it. That's just
You know what the best part is,
that's
guys?
the reality.
The beautiful thing is that we have 6 teams in the playoffs.
Do we? Are
There
we
is-
sure? I don't remember there being a 6th team in spring.
All right, yeah, that was different though.
They got 3-0'd.
Different though is this time there are 3 teams that are vying for 2 positions. And do you know what I have? I have 3 gentlemen with huge brains that can convince me who the 2 teams are going to be. And this is not like
Or
you
which
need
one
to
is
convince
not
me.
going to be?
Yeah. I know you could see it from that angle, but I want to know who's going to be 5th. I want to know who is the one that the other teams are dreading. Who is that 4th place team very scared of? That is the team that I want to learn about. And I don't know who that's going to be. Is it Kwandong? Is it BNK? Is it KT? I reckon I could get some help from you guys.
We might need to change first, though.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Wait, is it shoot or what?
Rock, paper, scissors, go.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, go. Oh! Rock, paper, scissors,
Choosing
go.
first.
Rock, paper, scissors, go.
Well, it's actually equal for us.
It doesn't matter.
Choosing first.
All right, I'll choose last.
All right, they're doing a switcheroo. All right, gentlemen, this is for your debating lives.
Who is going to be choosing Kwandong? Who will choose
And
KT?
who will not?
And who will choose B&K?
Please be in K.
Brendan,
Please.
do the honors.
Please give
The
me
middle
B&K.
one. Oh, wow.
Right off the top.
Giga high roll. All right.
Please be in K. Please be B and K. Please be B and K. Please be B and K.
I know exactly
Please
what
be
it
B&K.
is.
All right, I'll pick last.
Welcome, Poggers, to the PogState Playoffs debate. That almost kind of rhymed. I have Wolf, the B&K representative. I have Chronicler, the grumpy Kwandong boy. And we have Brendan Valdez, who is now feeling way more upset about having drawn KT.
My vibes are great. I was not
Yeah.
happy in the video.
Yeah, you weren't happy in the video. And now, because, of course, the video was taken a few days ago. That was when KT were freshly off their win over
They're still
Humble Life
friends.
Esports. Things feeling all right. Not
Overblown.
to add some vibes here, because, of course, these are three teams that right now, Kwandong Freaks are one win behind both KT and B&K. That is going to cost Chronicler a little bit when it comes to his debating skills. But we have a format for this. And so we are going to be starting with the best first, with the worst first, with the middle first. Depends what day it is. It's time for KT. It's
Well,
beautiful. Valdez, I'm
I
going
am
to give
timed,
you...
right?
Yep, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Okay.
And you're going to give me your argument as to why KT...
Could I have a pen? Need to make notes.
What?
Yeah, it's very important.
No, it's fine. You don't
No!
need to write any notes.
You are not allowed to. Okay. Pens in hand. We're ready to go. And our lefties are... Why?
Why is everybody a lefty? You
It
guys
is
are
really
weird.
strange. Yeah, that
They
we're
lose
all
points.
left-handers. Yeah. But
Already.
there we go. I will press the button, and then you will begin your argument. And try not to pay
Nay.
too much attention to them writing things down in their notebooks, like if they were psychologists and you were telling a story, and then they're like, "Oh,
How does it
write
make me
things down?"
feel
Yeah.
that KT lost to Bro?
Well, save
Well, let's,
that for within the 2 minutes. So I'm going to
All
press
right.
one of these buttons. Is it? Can I just press the green one here?
Probably.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right, Your Honor and members of the jury, I am going to tell you why KT Rolster is absolutely 100% making it into playoffs. That's because they are the most known quantity of the LCK. They're always in the middle. They are always going to be right where you expect them, which is losing to Bro, but also the only team that has beaten Genji this year, and the team that has 4 world titles under their belt. They have guys like BDD and Pyoshik who take it personally when they have to play against really good players on the enemy squads, right? Think about their game against T1 when nobody expected them to win. They were able to overtake them and eventually start kind of the downfall of T1. And KT, you know, they did drop the game to Bro, but I feel like I do need to address it. They always play against their opponents kind of at the level of their opponents. So today, a lot of our teams have been having some happy gaming. T1's done it, DK's done it, Humble Life Esports has done it. Even Genji did it that one game. KT, they deserve a little break. They lost to Bro. It happens. Bro are a bunch of Giga Chads. That's fine. I think that in their remaining schedule, they have both Genji and DK left. And they will have amazing performances against those two teams. They will definitely beat DK in my mind. Genji is another, iffy one. But even if they beat one other opponent, they hit 9 wins, which historically, even to just make it into playoffs, all you need to do is get 7 wins at times, 8 wins. So essentially, all they need to do is just beat one of Genji or DK, or they could beat DRX, which they are definitely a better team than, but maybe the Bro thing happens again. I definitely expect these guys to make it into playoffs, and I don't think it's going to be close. I think, actually, I would be most scared of KT if you are a team in playoffs, because they will just overperform against you.
And that is time. Well timed there. I will say that I need to give these gentlemen some time to rebut, as we're just starting it again. That was a bit weird.
Max, turn your watch off.
This is actually very
Your Honor.
accurate, very accurate judge
Drag it.
behavior. If you've played,
Drag it down the thing
If
on
you
the
played
top,
Phoenix,
and then
right?
it might like
This
grab
is-
onto it and drag it like the a notification at
This
the
is
bottom
exactly
of it.
what would happen
yeah,
to
there you
the
go.
judge.
And then hit the top one. See the two buttons that came up. Oh,
Oh yeah.
wait,
my God.
I guess it worked.
very judge-like behavior. Actually,
job, Your
really,
Honor.
really good job here from
Just,
Your Honor.
as long as we cut
Some
that,
boomer
that's fine. It only took me about 11 years. Okay, so now you gentlemen can have time to rebut. You have 30 seconds each. I will time it. What we're going to have to do is have one of you go 30 seconds, then immediately the next person starts. I don't want to give you time to think and consider what each other are saying. So we're going to need Chronicler. I will allow you to start this time around.
Wolf can
Next
go
time there's
first.
an opportunity to
I will
start.
do.
Wolf, you can start.
I can't believe you guys actually wrote notes. I'm not writing notes.
Okay. That's enough, KT.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Okay.
So
Chronicler.
I only have 30 seconds, right?
Quandonicler.
Well,
Yes, you
and-
have 30 seconds. Well, actually, you have
Quandonicler.
29 seconds because I can't be bothered resetting it. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I'd like to go into the arguments that Mr. KT here has given. First of all, being Gen G, super fraudulent. Sada Nautilus was extremely broken on the patch. They were very good early adopters, but outside of that, not actually in terms of gameplay, ever able to match that. And I think that relying on such a Hail Mary is not going to be a very consistent way to make it into playoffs. Same thing for Home Alive. The Home Alive win was entirely due to the Shyvana incident, which I think we all know was the major reason because it was still a free gamer when they had 2 games of Shyvana.
That's enough.
All right. Known quantity. KT Rolster. 50-50.
It's known that they're 50-50.
Known quantity. Everybody knows it, that they're the most unknown quantity in the LCK. Everybody knows it. We all know it. Everybody knows it. Basically, just beat one team. Strong argument. BDD and Pioshik Reliance. BDDs look a little bit rough a lot this season. And I got 2 words for you. Ivern ban.
Damn, he didn't even need all the time. It was pretty clean. Not going to lie to you. There's some argumentative energy here. I do need to go for a bit of a reset once again. Don't know how to...
Your Honor.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I just struggle with technology. I am an older gentleman.
You guys are taking notes. I have to take notes.
Yeah, you better... Well, you just said the whole time that you
Yeah,
weren't
but
taking
now
notes.
I don't know. They're really serious, so now I have to take notes.
Wow.
Even if I'm not going to write anything meaningful.
KT's being really unpredictable.
Who could have known?
Okay. Kwandong, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. That button.
Thank you for your time, Your Honor. I would like to talk about why Kwangdong are going to make playoffs. I think that the first and foremost, everyone keeps talking about the Kwangdong mid-season collapse. I would like to draw attention to the fact we're no longer in mid-season. We are now coming up to the end of the season. There's a reason why the mid-season collapse only lasts through the middle. If we look at last playoffs, same thing happened. It was looking like it was dire in week 6, week 5, week 7, but push comes to shove, Kwangdong was 6th. They made it to playoffs without so much as a hitch. And I'd like to remind everyone who they were playing with back then. That was Taeun and Bull. The bar was not high, and I think Kwangdong has severely improved with the inclusion of Leaper. I think additionally, when it comes to Kwangdong, there is one man that we need to talk about consistently, and that's the fact that one of the best junglers in the LCK in a jungle meta is on this team. This is a must ban. You cannot give Cuz Nidalee. The moment you give him Nidalee, he will take over games, including against some of our top players. We have seen this man school every single jungler on the Rift. Additionally, when we look at the strength of schedule, Kwangdong has the opportunity to take out 2 of their direct competitors next week. And even if that doesn't work out, there's still the backup. Particularly the series against DRX, given the complete shambles that DRX is in right now, should be a complete freebie. But we've seen T1 be in very heavy flux. And particularly when it comes to the current meta, Tristana is still viable in the hands of a talented player. Bulldog has been playing this longer than everyone else. Dudu has fully awakened, as we've clearly seen, can now individually match some of the best top laners. And if we look at some of the top laners he's facing right now, player like Zeus, he's really struggling. Player like Perfect has shown inexperiences that I think my top side can heavily exploit. And with Ondil back in good form, I have utter faith that Kwangdong will make it to playoffs.
boy, here we go again. Sorry, Your Honor.
He got it this time.
Sass, Your Honor.
That's some points off for KT. Let the record
It's
show.
okay, they'll get their points back somehow.
If you keep interrupting.
Sorry.
I'm not even flipping a coin anymore. It's just tails. But no, it is now time for some rebuttal.
30
And it
seconds
is
like-
B&K's turn to go first. KT, you will be immediately afterwards. Do
Yes.
not make another insolent comment before making your rebuttal, please, because that will eat into the
Nah.
time. Is that okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. B&K, and go.
Thank you, Your Honor. Because Nidalee takes over games when they have winning lanes and winning prio, and I've seen that bottom lane. Talking about Leaper being a big step up, that's true, but I don't think he's close to def, and I think Henna is probably more consistent than him right now. I'm also going to say Andil as one of your strong points. Well, it's a little bit strange because he seems to disappear from time to time. Sometimes he's not on the roster. That might happen again. So that's not even something that I think you can really rely on. And Zeus being in the conversation as being a weak top laner is kind of a really weird argument to bring up when you're talking about Dudu being good.
So in spring, Kwangna Freaks, they barely crossed the line, so that mid-season collapse was really, really bad, and then they got absolutely smashed in playoffs. It was, if every other team below them wasn't as good, they wouldn't have made, or if they were a little bit better, they would have been able to not make it. KT was ahead of them in spring as well. Leaper, as Wolf said, was not exactly a strength. And also, they only look good today because they beat Nongshim, so I don't think that really matters. Weak.
That's my gavel. Okay. Little bit weak on the rebuttal there, KT, but you'll figure it out, I'm sure.
He's just mad because you insulted him. He's wielding
Your
his
Honor.
power.
Objection.
Objection.
I just wanted to say it.
Oh, can we all do we should all do our own objection? Like the voice clip from Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, we should actually do it so that
During
we can throw it in
maybe
there.
later on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could even, while people are making their final arguments, what you need to do, and instead of actually interrupting, you get your solo camera, right? And what you do is you make direct eye contact, and then Ian can edit in an objection above your head if
Love
you
that.
want to.
That seems a little bit complicated. I think I'm just going to talk over people.
Truly the American way, Wolf.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, we've got two different schools of thought for the debate here, but I think that's either is
Either's
fine. Either is fine. I'm going to just go back to commanding respect mode because we still have one more delegate, and that is B&K. So far, some pretty good arguments for both of these teams. I'm starting to feel like maybe something's coming together in my mind as to who I'm going to assume is going to be in the playoffs. But B&K, it is now your time. So 2 minutes on the clock. Please tell me why B&K are going to be in the playoffs.
I don't see any minutes there. Oh, never mind.
Thank you, Your Honor. 2 minutes to talk about this amazing team, B&K, Vurex. They brought in a new support. He's actually made the team stable. They're no longer just flipping games. Raptor unlocked. He's playing Lee Sin. He's taken over games in a big way. Champion pool back to his challenger style. That's looking very successful for them. Clear, living up to the expectations that we had for him, as well as Chronicler's love for him. When Chronicler said he was good, it was bad, by the way. But now that Chronicler's given up on him, he's
Objection,
good again.
Your Honor.
And so that's a strong point. And the main thing is Raptor and Closer's synergy mid and jungle. And I think that's what this team is now starting to draft around. And that's the reason why they're going to go to playoffs. Anything can be a pick comp if you play it the right way. Talia, you can play into a pick comp. Doesn't even have to have strong jungle mid synergy. If you have an Ashe arrow, you could set things up with what they've done before. You also have the opportunity to play Azir as a pick comp if you can catch somebody with the Emperor's Divide. We've seen Closer improve his Azir quite a bit. We're also seeing different compositions around the Ahri coming back. Very strong move for them. And it looked initially like potentially B&K was actually going to be a team that they're so predictable that you could actually ban Vi and just win against them. But they found so many other ways to set up picks. Their Gnar compositions are looking fantastic with Clear. He's looking really good on the pick. His Gnar bar times have been some of the best in the LCK. And B&K is a roster that doesn't really collapse. They only rise up. They get better. One of the best teams of all time. Everyone knows it. It's very clear. B&K, one of the best teams of all time. Yeah. They have a huge legacy as being the kids who never panic. That's right, the cool kids who never panic. And they won't panic in playoffs. They're going to get a pick comp. They're gonna win it.
That'll do.
Cronny were like 8 things. I have 3
went
things.
Off the rails at the end of that one.
I don't know. I had too much extra time. I didn't know what to do.
2 minutes is a lot. Like,
I think I know which president you were channeling in that particular part of the debate, and that's totally fine. We're all up to
Sleepy Wolf.
Yeah. Wasn't the assumption. Okay, and now it is rebuttal time. We're gonna let KT go first this time around. You haven't been first yet, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, correct, Sam.
Yep. Okay. All right.
yes, Your Honor.
Yep. Facetiosity here. Okay, you've got 30 seconds, KT. Pay attention.
All right, so you talked about Duro being a consistent thing. He is actually, you said KT was an unknown quantity. Duro is the most unknown quantity. He is a super new player, and yes, he's looked good against weak teams, but when we actually come down to crunch time, I can see him easily collapsing under the pressure. Closer is, you mentioned him as well with Raptor, good synergy. That's also kind of new. Bit meta-dependent there. Also, BNK very well known for their late-season collapse, much like Quantum Freaks in the mid-season.
As we've learned today, there are several incontrovertible laws of nature in the LCK. And one of those laws is if you put your faith in BNK, they will break your heart. I know, because it happened to me multiple times. I still think about Croco, and when they got to that final game, and they couldn't get to Worlds, and guess what? When the chips are down, when everything comes down to it, BNK does not deliver. There is absolutely zero way this team won't somehow throw a massive lead and bungle the chances of playoffs.
It's weird every time
That's it.
Chronicler
Late season
supports a
collapse.
team. Every time Chronicler supports a team, they seem to
Objection, Your Honor, no
actually
time.
fail. So I mean, maybe
Talking out of turn?
Well, actually,
Your
no. This
Honor?
is time for everyone to just have a conversation together. I'm going to absorb information as you guys try and go through some of your points. I don't know whether I should actually be involved in this talk. I'd prefer not to be. I want to be a fly on the wall.
We're going to be just talking over each other.
That
He's
is
the
the whole
moderator.
point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to moderate. I am technically
Honor.
the moderator.
Your Honor, that's...
I know you
He's
probably
gonna eat
don't like it.
popcorn, I
That's
think.
fine. I'm gonna probably open my gavel and consume whatever's inside. That's what I was thinking about.
Could be anything.
No, I will try and mediate a little bit. However, I need you guys to remember that you're trying to convince me. You're not trying to make your fellow teammates look bad.
damn.
Right.
That's Wolf's only strategy.
So I mean, I'm just saying that may not necessarily win you points unless it's a really good burn. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes on the clock this time. And I actually did it. Holy crap.
Well done, Your
And there we
Honor.
go.
Oh, and as began,
Discussion time.
I just want to say, Max, that you have KT as 5th on your end of season predictions.
Thanks
So
for that.
They're number 5 in your mind and in my mind, and it should be in everybody's mind that KT is making it 5th.
I would like to make clear that there are 2 playoff spots and not only the 5th spot matter. So
It just matters a bit
I'm
more.
happy that I don't think it does. It's about which 2 teams are making it, and there is still ample opportunity for KT to drop down to.
Well, they have a
below
buffer game
6th.
because your team has one less
I think
win.
the assignment was to
would-
decide
DRX
which team
is
was
that
going to
buffer
get
game.
5th. The assignment was to determine which team was going to get 5th. I don't think we're adding extra
Yeah.
spots in here.
No, obviously that's the main priority, but we shouldn't forget that when everything's said and done, there's going to be 2 teams that make it to playoffs. So our job is to determine who's the weakest team.
Yeah,
Chronicle known
and
for
it's
low
going to be
standards,
okay.
yeah.
Just to clarify, gavel down. That means that in the instance of this, it's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So 5th, as was KT's argument, is 1st.
Exactly.
As far
But
as this argument is concerned, you don't get points for coming 2nd.
That's right, Chronicler. North 6th, North 7th.
yeah,
Quantum
and you see
Freaks.
Quantum Freaks is currently in 3rd
If you want to
place.
be the best,
By
I mean,
that-
if you
but-
want to be
no.
2nd, that's fine.
No, but by definition, my team is currently behind the game, and I do think that they will make up that game by winning against DRX. DRX right now are in absolute shambles. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have a
That's
top laner.
one out of the 4 teams you
It's
have to
decent
face.
recovery,
one way or
but-
another. As
DRX
a-
is one of the teams.
yeah,
that
that's
you have to
correct.
play
And the
out
other
of
2
4.
teams are teams where Kwangdong did very well. Might I remind you that KT Kwangdong round 1?
Might I remind
I
you,
don't
Teddy
remember. Sorry.
versus Leaper? Maybe Teddy won't pick Zaya this time.
Yeah, but you still don't have a. But not only is that a maybe, but you also still don't have a top laner. As much as I love my challenger players, we've clearly seen that Frog, unfortunately, is no more up to the task than Rasko is. The reason why we keep talking about DRX is because I want to make clear that effectively Guangdong is on the same score as the other two. So all it comes down to is whether we can beat BNK, whether we can beat KT. I think KT, I'm not going to touch because it's 50-50 no matter what I say. I know your honest thoughts
right in the
on
middle
this.
at fifth.
So there's well, that's not actually true because if it's a 50-50, if
5.5, which rounds up to 6.
No,
Remember
if
what they were in
Guangdong
spring?
win,
Fifth.
yeah, if
What are
Guang-
they now? Fifth.
If
7 and
Guangdong
7.
wins, that means that they're most likely overtaking KT, right? But the main thing is BNK. This team is just not dependable. They found a very small meta style that works for them right now. But
Pot?
the moment we are
Kettle?
going to get... I think my team has more diversity in playstyle.
Bulldog is
I think
only one game
Chronicler's
to
hogging the
Tristana.
mic.
Bulldog is only one game to Tristana. He may be undefeated on the pick, but he can only play Tristana.
Yeah, you can
He's
easily
not good at
ban that.
Azir or Hui or Corki.
Remember Ivern ban, 2 words.
Yeah.
Tristana ban, 2
Bam,
words.
easy.
Got him. Bulldog
And-
doesn't have a champion pool.
All right. Speaking of
You know
some
who
mid
has a
laners,
champion
you know
pool?
who's picking?
BDD.
You know who's picking Orianna when it makes absolutely no sense? That's
It
BDD.
looked so good.
Yeah, I'd
Like,
also
he crushed them with
liked
it.
a
It was
little bit-
He
amazing.
crushed Bro with it? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, Com
I
also...
think it looked really bad. It
There
didn't
was-
make any
That
sense.
Orianna game, the one before. The other one.
I wasn't talking about the good Orianna.
There was
game.
one more thing. I heard KT earlier say and talk about how the fact that Deft, Deft is looking great,
I
looking
didn't say
better.
anything about Deft.
No, you did mention Deft at some point.
I'll mention Deft. He's
Did
not
I?
looking
Don't
so
re-
great.
don't remember that.
I just want to
He
remind everyone.
talked about
I
Deft
just
in
want to
his
remind
rebuttal.
everyone that Deft today lost the 2v2 to Envy and Palu. Straight up, no jungle intervention.
Ashbrom is a really strong bot lane. Palu's looking
They
like
had
Deft
Ezreal
but Deft
Rakan.
didn't
Palu's
seem
looking
to
really
know
good
it. Deft
nowadays,
did not
okay?
seem to know how Ash worked, and it's weird because there's a lot of competitive games on Ash.
it's happy gaming. It happens to anyone, especially KT.
It might be some sad gaming when they're back in the
You
team
guys
house
were
when
like,
they don't make
oh yeah,
playoffs."
I don't think they can beat Genji. They don't have to beat Genji. They have 3 other games.
Yeah, I mean, I
KT.
think you guys are
They have
both.
DK. They're gonna crush them.
You
They
guys have both. No, I have
DRX as well, I
About.
think.
You guys are clueless. Clear.
Wrong.
Clear is the only player in this contention that I can trust the blind pick Gnar. And sometimes we don't like blind pick Gnar. Have you seen this guy win lane on Gnar? He crushes it. He gets solo kills. He gets turret plates. Safe lane to play through, but also can absorb pressure. I'm telling you guys, Clear, looking good. You're looking at Raptor, champion pool unlocked. He's going back to his challenger's roots, and he's playing with Closer. Closer actually gets to be a player when he's got a jungler.
There's
And
only
I'm
one
telling
team that I think other teams are scared of, and it's KT. It's not Quantum Freaks.
Yeah, but
And it's
KT
not-
can also
it's not
watch the
being
anyone.
DRX.
I would like to remind everyone as we close the free speech, there is only one player, and that's the player in my top lane that has a champion named after him, which is Dusante, and we saw it again today.
I just want to clarify that Kwandong was not trying to end free speech. Even though it sounded like that, that's not what he was actually trying to do. I would not allow
Chronicler
that.
does that sometimes.
Yeah. Because that's what this is all about in this fair debate. Okay, so now it is time for final speeches. This has all been ordered previously, and this is not based on my biases. And so first it's going to be KT.
Yeah.
You're going to have a minute
Yeah.
to tell me exactly why. And I've got things in my mind that haven't been mentioned yet for all teams. I'm going to be bearing them in mind as we head towards
Barreling them?
them in mind as we head towards me and my making of a final decision.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. I need you to focus on what those things might be and really try to nail them in your final speeches, okay? That's what I want to see the focus as. All right. KT, your time starts now.
Barrel. Well, so he had a really rough game today against Bro. I'm just going to address it. I think that he was playing Genshin while he was playing League of Legends, or before and after probably, and he was pretty distracted. I think that when it comes to actually crunch time, he will focus. He'll put the phone away and he'll play League of Legends. He's really good at that. They had a rough day today. That happens. Also, KT very well known for bouncing back really strongly after one of these easy losses. Hirai He's going to crack the whip, if you know what I mean. And he's going to get these guys in shape, and they're going to come back. And I think they might actually upset Genji here. Perfect, also a bit of a weekday. I think that he is, though, another one of those really young, great top laners, and I'm really impressed by him and his Rumble and stuff like that. His Nara was good as well. So I think it's pretty obvious that KT is going to win, and yeah, nothing else to say.
That's fine. Well done, KT. I'm going to go ahead and reset this in a correct fashion. You're going to have 59 seconds. I apologize for that, Kwandong Freaks, but that's just because I don't know how to use an iPad very well.
That's okay, Your Honor.
Thank you for your understanding. You can start talking, and then I'll give you a second, and I'll press the go button, okay? So it's on you.
So we've already talked a lot about the 5 members on each respective teams, talked a lot about what they offer. I think it's time to talk about the 6th man, and that is CVMax. I think that CVMax is very obviously, and for many a reason, a controversial coach. But I think it's important to note that he has also been part of some of the greatest talent developments that we have seen within competitive League of Legends. This was the man that was at the helm of some of the most successful challenger projects that we've ever seen. And I think that even though there have obviously been a lot of moments where it hasn't been enough, hasn't been able to actually make it happen to the end, he was the man that got this team back to playoffs last time around in spring. This time, I know Leaper rather doesn't need to be the end of the world. He just needs to be good enough. And I think right now, with the bot lane back in stable form, CVMax's drafting is one of the biggest advantages that he has over some of the random stuff that KT does or the predictability of B&K.
A little bit over time there.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Random.
That's 58. So we're gonna just okay. I'm gonna count you in there, B&K. We're gonna hear your final thoughts for 1 minute on the clock, and your time starts now.
So I've already talked a lot about the mid-jungle synergy, clears improvements, bottom lane, having Duro now, they look a lot more stable. And I think that those are the main reasons why I think B&K is going to be the team that makes it into playoffs in that 5th place spot, ideally. But I want to address the CVMax issue, which has been a huge drafting issue for Kwangdong Freaks in not only the past, but also recently. So I think that's actually something that you brought up that reminded me that the drafting has been quite poor recently, and they've been running it back in Game 2, which means they're losing a lot of 2-0s, so that's not looking great. KT Rolster really need to get it together in terms of the debate here as well. Like, come on, Valdez. What? And I just want to say both of these debaters didn't even look at B&K's strength of schedule, which is by far the hardest because they play against D+, Hanwha, and T1. You guys didn't even do your research. I win.
I guess B&K got third.
That's why I said I wasn't going to tell you, because they play against DK, Hanwha, and T1. I looked up right before this, and I was like, it is not going to happen. But you guys didn't even look at it.
But then you
We were talking about our teams.
You could have just not mentioned it.
Yeah,
we mentioned it in your final speech.
So I was honest and let him know
But
that I knew about it.
He really gave me way too much credit.
yeah,
But also, I take into account things that are said
I don't even know why
before
get it together,
I have my final assessment.
I just randomly told Valdez he did a bad job because I couldn't think of anything bad to say about KT Roaster in that moment.
Yeah, KT is the best choice. Yeah.
Just like,
True.
get it together, Valdez.
Oh man, I just
wanted everyone to know I'm not normally this mean. I just tried to be funny.
You know what? Like after today, I felt a little bit better, and then I'm realizing like I'm here out defending CVMax draft.
Yeah, what?
What am I going to talk about else?
I was lucky I got the final
It's cuz or
one.
bust, baby.
Yeah.
And
right.
also, I do think the final speech and then attacking us when we don't have another chance to react.
That's how you use the final moment. That's how you use the final
No,
moment.
Honestly,
You guys
he
can't talk
did
anymore
kind of
legally.
min-max. He
no,
did
but
kind of min-max, I'm not gonna lie.
that's arbitrary because he's the final one to go.
All right, we're not allowed to have this time. This is actually illegal conversing. It is now my time, okay?
We've been waiting for this.
This is the longest I've spent not talking in a PogState for my
I know,
whole
it's
life.
crazy.
I'm
Can you
so
really
confused.
ramp it? I kind of want really drag it out.
I mean, I've only got a minute, so it's going to be
No,
hard.
no. Come on, you
Let's
gave
give
us
him
more
like
time.
10 minutes.
Do this.
Actually, yeah, I'm
2
the
minutes.
judge, so I don't
Yeah.
even need to start the clock.
No,
I think
just-
this is totally fine. Okay, so I now need to rank these teams from 5th to 7th. And I feel like I am ill-equipped to do so, to be perfectly honest. There were things that I was wanting to hear, especially more about what the state of the game is going to be moving through these pivotal weeks that we're going to be seeing. Moving into a new patch coming in next week, what does this mean for the development of these teams? Who is going to be robust enough to be able to change on a dime and get themselves to that position? I've had to make a lot of decisions myself. What I'd first like to do is talk about the argumentative styles of all of our representatives for these teams. I felt like
And which one was the best?
and with, well, like that, yeah, yes.
Who was the most
Stop
polite?
interrupting. You're losing points. Firstly, I want to commend KT for not being too angry for having KT, because being able to argue for that team is virtually impossible. And so I just want to say that I appreciate that. And while
you,
you
Your
were
Honor.
rude, I understand why you were rude.
Yeah, I couldn't keep it inside. you
Yeah,
know.
no, it makes sense. The
Keep
team
the
is
debate civil,
an
please.
absolute headache. I also want to give a little bit of a shout out to Chronicler, who I think truly believes in his heart of hearts that Kwandong are going to be 7th. And he's being forced now into a very uncomfortable position of having to argue for not that outcome, and that might be difficult. He is a little bit more trained than everybody else, as he did go to law school, so I'm going to bear that in mind as well. He should have...
I've never done a debate in my life.
Well,
Sorry, Your Honor.
It showed.
that...
What's going on?
And Wolf's obvious attention to political debates is
politics, man.
really coming out strong. I've also had the pleasure of debating Wolf many a time at the pub after work, and he is very practiced in that version of the debate. Kind of like when you watch the Mighty Ducks and they go from playing street hockey to the organized kind. He is the street debate kind of guy, and so we saw that come out. I'm gonna bet that's fine. He had a little bit of a different style, ran out of points, decided to attack everyone else. Liked that. It kind of felt like that was sort of the vibes that were going on. So as far as the argumentative styles, I think that as like the solidness of the arguments, the fact that I let you guys know that there was things that I was looking out for, Chronicler absolutely nailed it, because if you're going to debate about Kwandong Freaks and just not mention CV Max at all, I was just going to cancel you from the whole thing, because there are positives for CV Max and there are obvious negatives.
Obvious.
And Wolf was right to bring that up in the negative light, right? Because I think that, posing that just as he does creative drafts and they're good is wrong. That's called lying. And I don't think you're allowed to do that. I don't know. Is that something you're not allowed to do? Wait, no, you can do that in debates all the time, can't you, Wolf?
Yeah, I mean, it happens in American debates a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's kind
Or
of
sometimes
common
what
practice.
happens is accidental lying, where there's a belief that something is a fact, but it is not.
And so you just lean on that, and that's how you just say things that are wrong over and over?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Clear
like-
being the best blind.
DNK being
The
consistent.
best
team, yeah.
part was that you said that Clear was the best blind Nar with Dudu on the table, and Dudu's actually...
and also perfect.
I mean, I still think Dudu's probably a bit more practiced in that department. He blinds Nar also all the time, and he probably doesn't even want to,
But I
because
couldn't
we all
respond to him
know
because he was lost.
that is
Yeah.
true. You weren't able to do that, but Wolf did utilize his position very effectively. And I want to say, as far as in an argument, you've really got to try and make do with what you got. And
what
he
you
did
didn't
in
get,
that moment. In that moment, he definitely nailed it. So I'm going to rank all three, and I want you guys to do the same. In the comments down below, let me know who you thought was the argumentalist guy and who managed to win out. And it's difficult for me, to be honest, because like there are a lot of things that I did sort of not take into account that a lot of you guys brought up as well. And so I thought I want to commend you for that.
Alice is really struggling through the judging part. He has to pick a winner. He's usually too polite to do so.
Yeah, I am actually, like, because I'm still actually debating within my own brain who to give it to, because there's also the teams that I know are going to be in what position, and KT leveraged that one extraordinarily hard, because like
very
Valdez
obvious.
just knew exactly where I was going to put KT from the
Yeah.
very beginning when we sat down. So that's just not very fair. There is the other argument of the fact that there are now 3 teams that we're debating about and a clear middle position. And KT is in the middle of any situation that they're in. That is something that you guys could have leveraged. You chose not to.
That's a good point. Thank you, Judge.
But I'm going to therefore have to defer to KT's original point, which was KT's 5th place. It's lucky for you, KT. Let's just say that.
I did draw KT, so
It's true.
Yeah, but you have a judge that put them 5th.
yeah.
That's not unlucky at all.
Lucky and unlucky at the same time, as is KT.
No, I was saying I was lucky to draw KT.
Oh,
Yeah,
my bad.
even though they lost to Bro, it's like
I
it doesn't matter
misunderstood.
because
Yeah.
they're going to be 5th anyway. It doesn't
So-
affect anything.
Based on inner turmoil and a very good debate style, I think I need to give it to Kwandong Freaks as the best debater.
That makes sense.
I think it was a well-formed argument, and I like that you immediately addressed what I was looking for in the final comments.
You weren't
That
looking
I
for Barrel?
appreciate. No, I was
He always is.
not really.
I was looking for him
look-
on that bro series.
I was looking for excuses for Beryl. I wasn't looking for just like, nah, don't worry, he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's the way it goes though. Like
I know,
he
it's a
looks
bit of a
like
shame.
crap,
That's
and
the
then
problem
he's
with
fine.
arguing either for or against KT, because none of it matters because it's set in stone.
Yeah, like
Do you know?
it's-
Do you know the way that Valdez could have won this debate?
Yeah, by arguing against that fate is set in stone,
No,
free will
no,
exists.
no. The way that he wins the debate is by saying actually nothing.
Yeah,
That
Just
is
sit
actually
here.
how Valdez wins.
That wouldn't have
He
been
just
very fun.
watches the time tick down.
Yeah,
That would be such a power
That
move.
honestly, that would
Just,
have
like,
been
say words,
so
like,
funny.
I'm just
Barrel,
glad he gave it to
Kyoshi.
Chronicler because I was really just pulling a bit and doing a character the whole time. But you didn't actually. I didn't even actually really debate or like explain my
but
points
you
very
really,
well.
but you really nailed it. It was really good.
Yeah. And I felt like we had, like, it was like the insolent teenager. There was the, like, very aggressive American argumentalist who just doesn't. Is argumentalist a word? No,
Sure.
it's
I
not.
just didn't respect anyone.
Yeah, just no respect, just yelling. And Chronicler's just fresh out of law school trying to actually formulate a good argument.
debate class.
Oh, it was very, very cute. And so second is going to go to KT because he honestly high rolled when he chose a card, and sorry being K. But as
This
far
strength of
as
schedule is actually rough. Like,
Yeah.
like unironically.
and you
So,
kind of did
I-
blast yourself in the foot.
Well, I mean, I said it at the end because I knew I wasn't going to win the debate, and also like I wanted to make fun of
So-
him for not knowing that.
That was legit. It also worked very
It would
well
have
with
just
the
been
style.
the conversation would have been done if you guys mentioned it all. That's why when you asked me earlier, like off camera, you were like, "Do you know the
should've
teams?"
asked,
I'm
yeah.
like, "I'm not telling you," because I did know, and I did not want
So,
you to know.
what do we actually? Is it actually? It's going to be KT 5th, Kwangdong 6th, and then BNK 7th, right? Just based on the strength
Yeah.
of schedule.
Based on
most
strength,
likely.
That'll
strength
happen,
of schedule, I think it's likely to be that. I
I think
still believe in my heart that it's going to be KT, BNK, Kwandong.
So Phoenix also or BNK also have Kwangdong. I didn't mention that's their fourth
Yeah,
team that's
yeah.
left. And then they have. I think they could beat one of the other three big
That's
teams.
pretty exciting that they all have
No,
each other.
it's actually
Yeah.
super dope.
KT
Because-
doesn't
and
have Phoenix.
The game
BNK
score is
though. They already
also
lost.
within 2. Like the only one that's behind in game score is BNK, and that's only by 2. So like
Yeah.
it's actually it's gonna be really fun.
I
it's
do
extremely
believe
close.
that like this is not just me with the jersey on, but like I do actually think BNK could upset one of those teams that they have a rough day because BNK is such a punishing team because they play dive nonstop, and if they have a good day and they have one good draft, like that might get in enemy team's head when they go into game 2 or something like that.
They're
Are they
also
playing
like,
T1?
Yeah, T1,
Yeah.
HLA, DK, and
T1's their last match, I think.
That could be
Right
the
now.
yeah. That could be the one.
And I think like if they can capitalize on a T1 that might have
They
got
beat 'em
into a
last time.
little bit of become a little bit complacent, right? Because they're facing off against some much easier teams. They could also ramp them up, but you can also sort of catch them off guard. And I think that BNK are a team to do
Might
that.
also get to a week 9 where say that Kwangdong like win against BNK, then lose against KT, and BNK loses both, or it's actually going to come down to like either of the teams beating T1. Wow, that's really cool. Damn.
Yeah. So I'm interested also in what you guys think. Not only in who won the debate, I want you to put a caster's name as to who won the debate, but then let me know, like, who is going to be in the playoffs. Maybe we just forgot to argue about Nongshim. Maybe we just forgot to put DRX in the conversation. We absolutely cannot put Bro in the conversation because they are mathematically eliminated now. But, you know, there are theoretically some outliers. If Nongshim make a crazy run, I don't think that's possible.
It's the game score is 14.
Yeah. Also,
I think, like, does that, like, there needs to be, like, some serious magic to get them out of that.
please know also that I wasn't being mean to Chronicler and
No,
Valdez
it
because I hate them. Which I do, but like, you know.
I didn't want to do it on camera.
I was doing it because I was doing a bit.
No, I
It's really affected Wolf today.
I feel like kind of guilty, to be honest. Like,
I thought it was.
No, I feel like it was perfect.
Yeah.
I actually feel like because Brendan was the guy that didn't care, and Chronicle was the guy that studied too hard, and you were the guy just being mean. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah.
I think actually, honestly, like, we had representation
exactly what you
from
wanted.
all schools of thought.
And you got to use your power and
I know I got
gavel?
to gavel with popcorn and wear a sheet. Like, it was fantastic. I had a really good time. I hope you guys did too. And I think that is time for us to end this glorious episode before this microphone just falls over. That is totally fine. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the PogState. And we will see you for the next one. And maybe we'll know who was actually right in the end. Maybe it was you. Let us know in the comments. Bye-bye.
Bye.